September 2025, Atlantic Ocean. Operation Iron Reprisal is already in motion. NATO has launched a full-scale strike on the United States. 31 allied nations pushing toward the most fortified homeland on the planet. But it didn't begin with a missile. It began with a break. After withdrawing from its European positions, the United States quits NATO entirely and shuts down every shared network. Satellites, intelligence links, GPS access, gone. So NATO moves before the gap can close. The mission isn't occupation, it's disruption. Shatter U.S. command, neutralize key forces, and drag Washington to the negotiating table before the situation detonates into something worse. But pulling this off means crossing 3,000 miles of ocean with no American logistics, no U.S. satellites, and no airlift. It becomes the most daring coalition strike ever attempted. And here's the twist. They trained together for decades. Now they're turning that same playbook against each other. Yes, NATO is a defensive alliance, but this is a sandbox scenario, and that line has already been stepped over. I know it's unlikely. This is just an exploration of how it might unfold. So let's walk through it. The objective is simple on paper. Force a U.S. surrender without mass civilian casualties. No nukes, no city leveling, just speed, pressure, and precision. NATO broadcasts a 96-hour warning. Evacuations begin. Troops mobilize. Entire naval groups slip out under radio silence. But a problem shows up immediately. Without U.S. systems, NATO is operating with blurred vision. They still have Europe's Galileo, but it's slower, easier to jam, and never tested in a war like this. It's not useless, but it's nothing compared to what they just lost. There's no U.S. satellite intel, no live drone fusion, no global logistics chain. And much of NATO's top hardware, F-35s, Blackhawks, HIMARS, still relies on U.S. parts, updates, and maintenance you can't fake in the field. NATO's F-35s can still network with each other, but the American intel web that stitched together radar, sensors, and satellites is gone. Every flight drains parts they can't replace. Still, they push forward, because hesitating means failing before they even reach the shore. Staging begins in Greenland, Iceland, the Azores, and Canada. Remote airstrips fill with troops. Cargo vessels load fuel, ammunition, vehicles, and supplies. Convoys snake across the Atlantic under tight escort. The invasion breaks into three major thrusts. Primary landing at the Virginia coast, targeting Naval Station Norfolk, the largest naval base in the world. Southern strike hitting the Florida Panhandle to seize Eglin Air Force Base and split U.S. coastal defense. Northern push moving down from Canada into Maine and Michigan using pre-positioned European forces from joint training agreements. Convoys form up. NATO destroyers, tankers, and amphibious ships shielding wave after wave of cargo vessels. Galileo handles navigation, and national satellites provide patchwork intel, but without full ISR, accuracy drops. Missiles land off target, reaction times lag, coordination frays. And if it doesn't work fast, it doesn't work at all. Before dawn, the eastern seaboard erupts. Cruise missiles hammer American air bases from Virginia to Georgia. RAF Typhoons and French Rafales escort NATO paratroopers onto major highways. They land behind a missile barrage, buying maybe 30 minutes before U.S. jets take the sky back. Special forces raid a missile site in North Dakota. Helicopters strike beaches near Norfolk. The fleet charges in low. Their mission: seize the port, crater the docks, and open a path for armor. It's bold, but the U.S. reacts instantly. Patriot systems intercept the first missile waves. Aegis destroyers neutralize incoming threats. F-22 Raptors streak overhead. Within hours, the 82nd Airborne locks down roads. The 101st lifts out of Fort Campbell. Marines deploy coastal anti-ship missiles. One French vessel falls behind, exposed. A U.S. submarine takes the opportunity. Hundreds of troops never reach the shore. NATO touches the coast, but they're already bleeding. From inland, U.S. HIMARS fired GPS-guided rockets into landing zones. Apaches shred stalled vehicles. Coastal batteries smash escort ships. Amphibious transports take direct hits. Armor sinks before it rolls. B-1 bombers operating far beyond NATO's strike reach fire long-range anti-ship missiles into the convoy. Meanwhile, American armor is on the move. Abrams, Bradleys, Paladins rolling in from multiple states using the intact U.S. rail system. Within 24 hours, U.S. armor is moving faster than NATO drones can track. That's the advantage of interior lines. Defenders move quickly, fight close, and resupply easily. NATO can't match that. Then the cyber war ignites. NATO hits hard. East Coast infrastructure cracks, GPS spoofing kicks in, drones drift off course, blackouts hit Virginia and New York, rail and 911 networks glitch, banks stall, public panic spreads. But the U.S. rehearsed this scenario for years. Cyber Command isolates compromised systems within hours. Backup satellite links restore targeting. Military networks shift to hardened dark fiber lines beneath the surface, untouchable. Then America fires back. Undersea cables linking Europe fail. Galileo signals degrade around the battle space. NATO drones go blind. Spy satellites freeze. Command centers lose contact with forward units. Targeting goes stale. And suddenly, U.S. cruise missiles land exactly where NATO forces are hiding. Fuel depots explode. Artillery is destroyed mid-reload. Columns freeze in exposed terrain. The cyber assault doesn't help NATO. It accelerates their breakdown. And now terrain becomes an enemy. Virginia's coast is marshy, flat, and full of choke points. The Appalachians trap any westward movement. The Midwest is wide open, perfect for U.S. bombers to wipe out columns. Engineers blow bridges, crater roads, flood routes. Meanwhile, America's inland network stays fully functional. Supplies move freely. Troops redeploy nationwide in under 72 hours. Even units from Arizona and Colorado move east on untouched rail lines. NATO isn't so lucky. They depend on a few fragile ports and exposed convoys. Every ship they lose hurts more. Every delay compounds. By day 4, U.S. submarines are sinking multiple cargo ships a night. Crews abandon tankers, convoys scatter, supplies fade. NATO holds parts of Norfolk, a few Florida airfields, and some ground near Canada. But without a deep-water port, they have no sustainable pipeline, no armor flow, no fuel. Just fragments collapsing in slow motion. The U.S. floods reinforcements from National Guard brigades across several states. Within days, defenders outnumber invaders. NATO runs dry. F-35s lack missiles, tanks need fuel, artillery is nearly empty. The beach is still a choke point. And the U.S. isn't just holding, it's grinding them down. Then the counterattack starts. 3 divisions, 1st Cavalry, 3rd Infantry, and 1st Armored, surge toward Norfolk. The 82nd Airborne secures the north. Marines lock down the south. HIMARS obliterates NATO support. A-10s and Apaches clean up the rest. It becomes the biggest mechanized battle on U.S. soil in a century. French Leclercs and German Leopards fight fiercely. British paratroopers try to retreat to the water, but they've lost air cover, lost comms, lost logistics. There's nowhere to go. The beachhead collapses, Florida is retaken, the northern push retreats into Canada. Hundreds are captured, some surrender on live stream. At sea, the HMS Prince of Wales takes a direct hit. The Charles de Gaulle is disabled by a drone swarm. Remaining NATO ships retreat while U.S. submarines chase them home. The war ends with no doubt who wins. The United States holds the field completely. NATO's strike collapses under logistics, tech dependence, lost timing, and brutal geography. Could NATO have won? Maybe, but only with a captured port, grounded U.S. air power, and a forced surrender in under a week. Instead, they lost the fleet, then momentum, then the war. Now imagine this. What if the invaders weren't NATO, but the greatest armies in history attacking a modern U.S. base? It's on your screen now.